I believe it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was right down the street monitoring traffic at an intersection when the dispatch came in that there was a working fire. I was right down the street, so when I heard the dispatch came in, I immediately responded. I had to get there within 30 seconds of the initial dispatch. I parked down the street so that way I wouldn't get blocked in by fire apparatus. They didn't want to get in their way. I immediately ran towards the house, went in. I was overwhelmed by the smoke. The amount of smoke in there was just unbelievable. The mother came out and said that she was hanging out the back window. So initially I went up the steps. I tried to go up the steps to get her through there because I figured that would be the easiest way, is to go up the steps and try to get her out. But the amount of smoke at the top of the steps was just thick brown. I couldn't breathe. I got as low as I could. I still couldn't get through the smoke, which ended up being right where the fire was right next to her doorway. I immediately went back downstairs to try to get outside because I knew the only way to get her out of that house would be out the back window. It seemed like at first she didn't want to jump. I knew that it was probably because of the height. I remember her saying that the smoke was starting to bother her. Her eyes were burning. She was having trouble starting to breathe. So as I went out the back, I looked around for a little bit to try to find a ladder, but obviously in a perfect world that would have been a ladder, but in this case there wasn't. So I remembered as I was running out the house, I ran through the kitchen, there was a kitchen table. So I went back inside to grab that kitchen table. It was a round pedestal type table. So I rolled it out, set it up outside the window. While I was doing that, the mom ran back in and handed me a chair. So I set that chair up on top of the table. I climbed on top of the table. The girl, Savannah, was then comfortable jumping into my arms. When she jumped, the table gave way, the chair broke, we fell back. Nobody was hurt, luckily. My next priority was to get her to EMS right away because I knew that the fire had to be right around the area she was in. I didn't know what her injuries were.
The initial dispatch was with entrapment when we got the call, working fire with entrapment. There's heavy fire blowing from the second floor, and there's heavy smoke coming from the rear. And this was an apartment in the middle of several other apartments. We sent a rescue crew in on Division 2, the second floor, doing a search quick until we determined that Officer Hrebik had already got the child out of the second floor.
It really didn't sink in until after she was loaded in the ambulance and her mother got in, but then her mother got back out and she gave me a hug. And when she gave me that hug, the feeling that I felt was just unbelievable. She was obviously so thankful that her daughter was saved, but that's when it really set in for me that I was just, again, it was just pure, I was just very thankful that everybody was okay and it played out the way it did.
When he went up top of the steps, it would have been a different story if he would have tried to go down that hallway. The fire originated in the bathroom. There's heavy fire blowing out. It was structural firefighting all the way, and it was a tough building because there was a crawl space void above all the homes, and the fire had gotten up in the void and was starting to spread both ways.
I think in that situation I did what any first responder would have done, and that was try to save the girl that was in there, or anybody that would be in there. You know, and I have to give Hospital Fire all the credit in the world that 3 a.m. a weeknight, to have the amount of manpower, the amount of people that come out to volunteer for their community in an event like that is just unbelievable.
We were lucky that night. Everything came to fruition for us because everything worked out. We kept that fire to that one apartment and we rescued a woman or a child. So it really worked out. It was a great thing.
A situation like this, I think, really shows that police officers do care. Police officers will go out of their way to try to save somebody no matter what. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We're here to do everything we can for our community.
After the fire was extinguished and we were starting to do our investigation, paramedics came back to the scene and talked to me and said, you know what that girl told us on the way over to the landing pad? I said, no. And she said, you know, she remembered learning in fire prevention when I was at schools with her about how I talked about if you hear the smoke alarm going off, feel the door with the back of your hand. She said, I did that. It was really hot, she said, so I went to the window, opened the window, because the chief said, somebody will get me. Just open the window and let them know you're there. And everything worked out, so it's great. When they came back from the hospital, I gave that girl a big hug and thanked her. She's here because of listening to me, which I thought when I go to the schools, you know, I hope kids would listen, but she certainly proved the point that kids do listen. So I urge all people that do fire prevention, talk to the kids. They will listen.